All right, Paulie. I first met Paulie at the Lost Horizon when I stopped being just a young musician, but also a bar back there. I'd probably seen him at every show I had gone to before I started playing music or working there, but we never really talked or really ran into each other much until I was really working there, I think. That was kind of the thing about Paulie, is like he was always there. He was so regular that he kind of became part of the backdrop, like the kind of burnt in picture on an old TV screen, I kind of carried that through our interactions through the years. Sometimes I wouldn't even notice that he was there. Sometimes I would just see him and say, hey, and keep going. But, the same way you're not saying hi to the holes in the floor at the Lost or the stained ceiling tiles. It was just another element of this place that eventually I ended up feeling like was my second home, or a clubhouse or something. Everyone on the staff, usually had a good time, and it wasn't just the people there. And eventually I'd find out that Paulie did work there a long time ago. Sometimes he would try to offer to help or at least give me some insight on something, like, hey, somebody's throwing up, which would be my job to clean. And, sometimes I'd be really busy with like a sold out show, barely keeping beers, at the bar, and he'd be pointing out, oh, there's garbage in the parking lot or something. I'm like, all right, great, man. Can't do anything about that, but thanks for the heads up. He was really kind to me, though, and he was always very earnest when he was complimenting music that I made. He would tell me, like at the end of a show after I was playing and probably working too. I played and worked a lot of the shows, so I'd be cleaning up, and he'd come up and he'd tell me, that was a great set, and I got it taped. And, being tired and like just trying to clean up so I could get on home or go meet the after party or whatever, I'd just say, thanks, man, that's great, but never really kind of looked into it, and I kind of would remember after the fact, oh yeah, Paulie said he taped the show, but I never ever heard one of them. It's kind of sad now to think that I'd never asked him about any of those recordings when I still could. And, I think that's probably the thing I think about most, especially after hearing about the news, is that I can't go back and try to be closer to him or try to ask him about what shows are like, way back when, or what the Lost was even like, when he was younger. I probably could have given him one or two more rides or tried to, I never smoked, but he would ask me for a cigarette sometimes. And, now I wish I had one I could have given to him. I guess maybe I don't have the greatest story about Paulie, but I'm really, really grateful to hear the recordings now and just kind of be a part of Paulie's vault. And, very lucky to have met him. And it's really great to be able to hear, what I'm sure were some of his prized possessions.
This is Paulie's Vault.
Paulie's Vault is brought to you by the Lost Horizon, Syracuse's longest running, most consistent, and all-around best rock and roll club. I'm John Bukowski, and welcome back to Paulie's Vault. What we have here today is pretty special. We have a show from Ecliptic Vision at the Lost Horizon on June 29th, 2018. Now, this show is also special because their drummer, Vincent Lawyer, is also no longer with us. And ever since he passed, I do not believe the band has played another show. And it's really nice to have this recording. So I personally would also like to say thank you to Paulie. And that introduction that we started the show with was actually by their vocalist, Josh Rivette. So let's enjoy this set right now. And as always, if you have a story about Paulie that you would like to share, please email me at pauliesvault@gmail.com. And please also follow us on Instagram at pauliesvault.
Well, good goddamn, it's death metal time. We are Ecliptic Vision. We are death metal from Syracuse. Let's fucking do this. next song is not about Houston Islands. This next song is called Boom. High Council has some of the coolest shirts that I ever saw. And then they came up here and they put on a great show. So High Council rocks too. And we got Hamburg and Blue Turds up next. And shut the fuck up. And of course, the reason we're here, Animates. This next song is called Rage Ablaze! Ecliptic Vision. We are death metal from Syracuse. This is our last song for the evening. This next song is